Welcome back to this already the final segment of today's Price of Business. I am your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. Trying to see how fast I can talk in 30 seconds. I need oxygen tubes up my nose. Glad to be able to wrap up today's show. Sigmund Kramer, myself.
Who do you think
Kevin
you are,
Price.
Don Imus?
I think I'm that guy from the Federal Express commercial.
Well, you know when Don Imus had those nasal cannulas, and it was so awkward because he'd be on, doing his radio show, but it'd also be televised, and he's got these stupid tubes up his nose, and he sounds like that.
Was that when he had cancer?
Don't make me feel guilty for making fun of the guy.
Yeah, I do. I am trying to make you feel guilty. But he had cancer, right?
I don't know.
And I think he fully recovered, which is pretty cool.
Oh, shut up.
And
That's all I know.
he has a foundation that gives, takes care of little kids with cancer.
Yeah,
which is kind of cool because he seems like a jerk, frankly.
He is such a jerk.
Yeah, there's nothing warm or fuzzy. He's like anti-Bill Rancic.
He's like the anti-Santa Claus.
We had Bill Rancic on this week, and
Yeah.
I think we both said almost simultaneously, he's such a nice guy.
He is. I mean, there's not a mean bone in his body, I bet.
Yeah, and yet, the Donald like him. The Donald typically likes mean people.
Does he?
When you look at the winners and he's able to go late into The Apprentice,
Yeah.
he tends to gravitate towards, people with a lot of
jerks.
attitude, certainly a lot of ego, which I don't see a lot of that in Bill Rancic. Bill Rancic is perfectly comfortable talking about his abilities, but he doesn't blow his own horn.
Has Rosie O'Donnell ever been on The Apprentice? Because he does not like Rosie O'Donnell, and she does not like Donald Trump. Maybe he should have her on and let her win.
So yeah, absolutely. Speaking of Bill, I thought it was interesting, on the idea of the Donald running for president.
Yeah.
Conservatives love that idea.
He had nothing bad to say, which, you know what, I give him lots of respect for having respect for Donald Trump and realizing, unlike so many people, Kevin, once they get to a certain level of success, they kind of forget about the people that helped them get there.
Yeah, they bite the hand that fed them.
And Bill Rancic clearly is not like that. Kudos to him. He's awesome.
Yep, super
Donald
guy.
Trump, look, say what you will about Donald Trump. The guy is a promoter.
Yeah, but he gets the best season he's had maybe ever in the history of The Apprentice, that he leaves it to run for president. How's that going to help him? And when you run for president, all you do is create enemies.
But how's it going to hurt him? Because it's going to put his name out there constantly. And like I said, he's kind of the 21st.
I can see his logo, like a Trump Tower logo for his campaign.
Yeah, and on his ticket it would just say Trump /
the Trump Organization.
Trump, because he doesn't need anybody to run on his ticket.
Does he have a private plane?
He's got enough ego for two. What?
I bet he already has a private plane.
Oh, I'm sure he's got several.
Several?
Yeah.
Man, that's just
Why
crazy.
not?
Why would he? The better question is, why would he? He doesn't seem like he's foolish with his money.
Well, I mean,
but if he has a lot of people flying in a lot of places,
I'm surprised he doesn't have an airline.
Didn't he at one point?
I don't know. He maybe Trump Air. He had Trump Water.
Yeah,
so why not Trump Air? And then you have Trump Ground.
Speaking of logos, that reminds me of the new logo that the Ted Cruz for President campaign has. Have you heard about that?
No.
Yeah, well, they're saying it looks like, it's kind of like a flame, a red, white, and blue flame.
Uh-huh.
So critics are saying, why is this logo an American flag on fire?
Oh, no.
And it kind of looks like that. Yeah, like a flag on fire.
I'm surprised they didn't
say...
say...
It looks like, what's the name of that Middle East news? Al
Jazeera.
It looks like Al Jazeera.
Really?
It looks like
it's
the
like
Blaze.
red, white, and blue Al Jazeera?
Kind of like red, white, and blue Al Jazeera.
I'm surprised no one said, well, obviously he's in the bag for natural gas interests. So, he's like Bush was in the bag and Cheney were in the bag for the oil industry. So now Ted Cruz is going to be in the bag for the, natural gas industry.
Why not? Not?
Flame on.
Yeah, according to this, he has a private jet, and it recently had a 250 million pound. This is a British publication makeover. 250 million pound makeover.
Well,
no, that's the resort. The plane cost.
Okay.
The plane cost. It's a 757 worth $100 million.
Yeah, because I was going to say at that point he has a plane worth more than Air Force One.
Right. I was going to say the same thing. I was saying that's not possible. It's $100 million plane, relatively new, 757, gorgeous inside. but apparently only one plane.
Okay.
But it already has this logo on it. All he has to do is, have a little ... with old elite typing for president. Speaking of, but you have no opinion on the logo that Ted Cruz has?
Because I haven't seen it, but if you say it looks like a flag, an American flag on fire, probably not a good idea.
Speaking of Ted Cruz.
Unless you're Barack Obama.
And I have an article in the works. More than likely it will be in the Huffington Post since they publish about 90% of what I do, and they'll relish this particular article.
Yeah, of course.
Because it will be critical. If not, it will be in several other websites. But I wrote an article because I am a little critical. I love the idea that...
of
Ted Cruz.
Ted Cruz, okay.
I love the idea, and Ted Cruz is a friend of this program. I've heard rumors that he's been on this show more than any other show, period. And, he was on almost every week,
right.
In 2000.
Leading up to the Senate campaign.
Yeah, 12.
Or during the Senate campaign.
Yeah, of course, where is he lately? But anyway, I admire him a lot, and I consider him brilliant, and I love the idea conceptually of making sure he's subject to the same laws as the people. That's kind of the idea behind this decision to get off of, to get on Obamacare because his wife is getting off of her plan.
For medical leave?
Medical leave.
And no one's talking about that. What is that medical leave about?
No, it's not a medical leave. It's just it's a leave in order for him to be able to support him running for president.
Okay,
it's
so it's not a medical leave.
Which is why she's losing everything and would have to do COBRA.
Yeah, I misunderstood. I thought that she was going out on medical leave. I'm like, why isn't that a story? So it's a leave of absence.
Leaves of absence.
So that she can support her husband who's running.
Right.
Well, and why wouldn't he go on COBRA? Because it's expensive and it sucks. And so...
They make enough money for them.
Yeah, but I mean...
how much she made as a managing partner in
Goldman Sachs?
Yeah. I got a feeling she wouldn't miss that money.
Probably not $2,000 a month isn't going to really be a big deal.
Yeah, and so...
Then it's got to be because he wants to make a statement.
Political grandstanding.
Yeah, and
the statement...
Who would think that Ted Cruz would ever do that?
It's still beyond me. I can't imagine that. But the thing about it, I love the idea of making a statement. And what I would have liked is a statement of don't be a victim of Obamacare. Don't sit there, and play dead. Don't be a doormat. Go out there and use one of the alternatives that are out there, like Samaritan or Christian Care MediShare. And there's this one that's not even religious. It's called Liberty something. On the average, your premium is probably less than what their Goldman Sachs premium is going to be. And I know for many people, it has always worked consistently. It works extremely well. And what a statement. What an inspiring statement.
That I'm not going to be a victim?
Yeah. That I'm not going to be a victim, and you don't have to be a victim either.
Right.
This exists. Get the heck off it. Let's destroy Obamacare by getting the healthy people who have good lifestyles, because you have to have a good lifestyle. You can't be an alcohol abuser or a cigarette abuser to be on most of those Christian Share programs. And the whole idea behind Obamacare is getting healthy people to get on there.
Oh, great. Do you see what you've just done?
What?
Now the left is going to seize on that and say, why isn't he on one of these plans?
Oh, is he a closet smoker?
Is he an alcoholic? He must be on drugs.
Yeah, exactly. Or the only other reason why would be, besides political grandstanding on Obamacare and making it all about Obamacare, which I think is a mistake. The other reason why is that someone in his family does have a pre-existing condition that would not let them be in that program.
And there you go. So now you got the conspiracy theorists, leftists that are going to glom onto that. My thought was, because of the law that Chuck Grassley had put in, part of the amendment, part of the bill was, or later on they added it, that Congress had to take part in it, right?
But in the end, they didn't.
They didn't?
No, they're exempt.
Oh, I thought that they...
No.
Okay, well, I think Ted Cruz... Here's my take on it.
Yeah.
This is just my take. I think he is, because he's been such a staunch opposition to Obamacare, he wants it gone. I think now he's doing this in order to, say, hey, I'm no different, I'm no better than anyone else, any of these Americans, these millions of Americans that are, affected by Obamacare. I'm just like you guys. Mm-hmm. Number two... He's hoping that by signing up for Obamacare, he's going to be able to chronicle all the negative things that go on. So I can't find a doctor. I couldn't even. It took me 3 days to even figure out how to get signed up for this thing. Like, he can chronicle all the issues with Obamacare during the next year and a half as he's running. I'm hoping that that's what he's thinking.
Yeah. And by the way, just for the listener out there, I'm a huge Ted Cruz fan. I supported him as much as I can in my position. I've stuck my neck out for him more than virtually any other politician out there. I love him in the U.S. Senate. I don't see him winning the presidency, and that's part of my frustration.
Right.
It's like, why waste the time? Why divide? We've got 3 establishment people and 13 movement people running. Those 13 movement people are taking votes away from one another, leaving a high opportunity for another establishment guy to get in there. Why don't we get a credible conservative, one of the governors, someone like a Scott Walker?
I think Scott Walker is going to be up there. I think that Jeb Bush and Scott Walker will be the 2 at the top of the ticket going into the Republican convention.
I hope you're right. I think Jeb Bush is going to be able to exploit the situation.
But Scott Walker's a smart cookie, and you said he's starting to pull back from his support of Common Core and his illegal immigration reform stuff that he was kind of heading amnesty, which Jeb Bush clearly does. Mm-hmm. So if Scott Walker can even move to the right a little bit of Jeb Bush, he's still going to be the guy on the right.
Right.
When it comes down to it. But, Ted Cruz, you know what I want to see him? I want to see him on the Supreme Court.
That's what I'm talking about.
I want him to be, and I think that he wants his name out there, and he's going to keep putting his name out there and trying to drum up, as much support as possible, even though I don't think he has a chance of becoming the next president. I think that by keeping his name out there, maybe he'll position himself, whoever's going to be president, maybe he can get on their good side, and they'll help get him through to the Supreme Court. That's where he belongs.
I believe
quite
that.
Frankly,
I believe he'd be a brilliant jurist on the Supreme Court. And precedent. See, people always have problems with precedents, but precedents always follow precedents. So what if we had precedents that moved back to what the original intent of the Constitution was?
Right.
It can't happen overnight, but we can slowly move in that direction. I just don't think it's sexy enough for him. The Supreme Court. I don't think
Ted Cruz.
I don't think he thinks it's sexy enough for him.
Really?
I think he's.
Well, you know him better than I do, but I think that he probably would really love to be on the Supreme Court.
I just don't see it.
You know what? Why don't we ask him?
We can certainly put a call.
I've never heard anybody ask him that. I've never heard him address that. It doesn't mean someone hasn't, but I think it's worthwhile.
Yeah.
To talk to him about that. Probably he won't want to talk about that as he's running for president because, let's face it, it's like, hey, do you want the consolation prize? No, I'd rather not talk about the consolation prize right now. Let's talk about the prize.
You and I both know, though, he'd never make it through the Senate, right?
Oh, well.
For confirmation, there's no way on earth.
Right now he could because there's enough of a Republican majority.
No, I don't think so.
Well.
They can filibuster the Supremes. Just ask Lynch. She's been in there, 6 months? There's no way on earth. I'm sitting here thinking about it. There's no way on earth. He's got a record a mile long as Solicitor General. He's got policy statements.
Maybe if they get even more gains in 2016.
They'd have to have a filibuster-proof majority to get him through.
Or they could just change the rules.
Yeah, I don't know if they can change them that much.
They could change oh, come on. Look at what Harry Reid's done in the Senate.
Yeah.
So, anyway, there you go. Now, real quick, we got a couple of minutes left. What do you think about this Germanwings flight that went down?
Oh, yeah. That was what we originally said we were going to talk about. This is what happens when you let 2 teenagers with ADD get on the microphone. But anyway, yeah, I think that was probably going to be proven to be an act of terror. What was interesting, I don't know if you caught this, but immediately after they released names on everyone and a certain amount of information, as much as they could, but they had, including on everyone who worked for the airline except for the pilot and the co-pilot. The airline did not release any information on them. And this is before we heard the black box.
Yeah, that's
horrifying. Very, very weird if you think
horrifying
about it.
To think that the pilot waited for the other pilot to get up from his chair and leave, and then he locked him out, and then he just let it go. And crash into a mountain. My thought is, okay, how was the timing? They could have missed the Alps altogether had that pilot not needed to go up. So my thought is, did the other pilot make some fake story saying, hey, they need you back there, and then the pilot got up and then because I can't imagine it's just going to go to the bathroom.
That's what the recording said.
The timing worked out perfectly, and he had to go to the bathroom, and that was it.
That's why I think that the pilot may be in cahoots. and for some reason wanted to not look like he was in cahoots.
That makes no sense. If they're going to die, they're going to die.
No, I understand that, but I know, but it's like reputationally or whatever. So like maybe he's married and has kids, and the other guy wasn't. I mean, we're purely speculating because he wanted to make sure his wife was taken care of and that type of thing because the timing is suspicious, and they have a protocol in the United States. If any one of the two leave, a flight attendant has to come in and stay there just in order to facilitate coming in and out and to make sure something like this doesn't happen. Didn't sound like there was anyone else in that room.
Yeah. I don't know, but that all I can tell you is how horrifying the passengers, the children, the people on that plane, seeing the other pilot trying to frantically get into the cockpit, as it's descending rapidly.
Quickly. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I feel so horrible for them, and I hope that it's not terrorism. I really do.
Too.
I just can't imagine what else logically. Rationally speaking, what else could it be?
What else could it be? All right, we've got to wrap it up with that. And thanks for joining me with that segment there.
Man. Thank you.
It was a lot of fun. And I do want to thank our friends over at Efficient Wealth Management for bringing today's program for us. And I want to thank you for being a part of it. I want to remind you, best content here can be found over there at usdatareview.com. Have a great day spending it right here.